Hello, everybody. Hello, video on demand people. Hello, Dig. Fancy seeing you here. Good morning. Hello, Ultimate Turkey. Hello, Rihanna Aheron. Hello. Good morning. Brendan Hilgendorf. Morning. See, these are names. These aren't strings of letters and numbers just randomly thrown together. It's much nicer. Hello, Moscow. What time is it in Moscow? Traditional elven greetings, James Warner. I'm glad to see people are enjoying dusk. It's we've got about an hour before James takes over with the Arcadia live stream, but I thought it would be a good idea for us to hang out since we hadn't seen each other in a while. If those of you who don't follow us on Twitch, Johannes Tilgrenstrom. That's a badass name. You even got little dots over. Shy Woofer. No, I have never played 10 Candles, although I know a lot about it now because we have an upcoming You Might Like This Game with Jennifer Kretschmer. Hello, Greece. Yeah, there's going to be kitty cats walking around in the background. That happens. It's just a fact of life here. Matt Scott, when are you going to get a new running the game video? I don't know. I sort of feel like I've got a bunch of scripts that I have in various states of completion. I'm looking at a couple of them right now. We need to make it so that. But I sort of feel like at this point with running the game, I haven't said everything there is to say. Because as long as I'm running D&D, I'm always learning new stuff. But I've certainly said everything you need to say. Aaron, I have no idea. Really have no idea. But I do intend on getting it done. Isn't the next video the 100th? I don't think it is. I think it's like 98 or 99. I've been going through, hello Denmark, I've been going through the playlist and kind of culling it. Because there's a bunch of stuff in the running the game playlist that I don't think of as being really a running the game video. There's a couple live streams in there where I'm like, this is there. I should do a video on this, not a live stream. I should do a scripted video on this, so I'm going to pull this down. And so that is causing the the list of videos in the running the game playlist to actually kind of shrink a little bit. So I don't know when exactly number 100 is going to happen, but it's going to be soon. Do I have feelings on the new Dune movie? Yeah, I do actually. Bosef says, digging the Illrigger. Very happy you like it. It's very close to my heart. I think the Illrigger is probably the last thing MCDM will ever do that is just, I just wrote it from scratch. And we do have a revision of the Illrigger. Hello, Joe Auerbach. I saw that. Thank you very much. Thank you for the $20. We do have a revision of the Illrigger. We just released the Illrigger on Roll20. So if you have Roll20 or if you use Roll20, you can now get it officially and use it. But you're using a version that is like one update out of date because we are in testing right now with a new version of the Illrigger. That we have a big change list. It's just revisions based on stuff. I would say the biggest change that we're testing right now to the Illrigger is... you know, I monitor all the discussion about the Illrigger. We have people on their Discord talk about it. We have people on Reddit. There are people on Twitter talk about it. And I watch all this stuff. There are a couple other internet forums that I pay attention to. And there are things about the Illrigger that some folks don't like. Like, there are people that don't like the name Illrigger because they feel like it's not generic enough, right? It's not like fighter, rogue. There are people that don't like forked tongue, which is one of the first abilities you get. And we are revising forked tongue to make it so you pick one of these three skills. You don't get this floor, this minimum result in all 3 of these skills. So we're changing that to make it a little bit more. But there are other abilities in 5th edition now that set a floor to abilities, and they're usually 10. So the fact that the Forked Tongue is 8, it's not as good. So Forked Tongue there's a bunch of little tiny updates, but the big one I think that we're testing right now is making it so that Ilriger can only put 1 seal on an enemy at a time. Because what people would do is what they call crit fishing, right? And this is one of the things, when I saw people objecting to things like, oh, I don't like the spell progression of the Architect of Ruin. I'm like, well, that's fair. It's a weird spell progression. It's non-standard. The Architect of Ruin spell progression doesn't exist normally in 5th edition. But while it does mean that class is getting spells faster, it's getting better, it's earlier, it's getting spells faster than a normal half-caster. Then you look at the spell list of the Architect of Ruin, and you're like, oh, actually, this is not that big a deal. So that's one of those objections that I read and I watch, and I'm like, I don't think that's that big a deal. But the fact that what folks would do is they would put seals on enemies, 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, and the whole time, and they would just wait. They wouldn't consume the seals until they critted. And then they would consume them, and they would do, an additional, what is that? 5, 10, 20, additional 20 d6 on a crit. That is not the intended design of the Ilriger. So making it so you can only put 1 seal on an enemy at once stops that, right? Because you no longer have that like, ooh, I could crit 2 or 3 or 4 seals or 5 if I've got 20 charisma. And then there's an exception to that for the Shadow Master with their Marked for Death ability, where they drop all their seals on someone. So that's should keep the Shadow Master feeling like an assassin, which is what they're supposed to be, while making it so that the other Ilriger classes aren't so crazy. Filthy Peasants is really good. Yeah, those of you, Filthy Peasants is awesome. I am probably going to use it at some point. I think it's cool as hell. I'm glad you like it. You'll get to hang out. Cena Fisher, I saw that, 20 euros. Thanks to me, no. You didn't need me. You just didn't know you didn't need me. I knew you could do it. I believed in you, Cena, before you believed in you. Do the seals also go, hung, 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 lag, lag? Minos Zeralis says, I want to get into Michael Moorcock, but I'm overwhelmed by the number of books. Well, I think very soon you're going to get a video about Elric. I have not, you fool. Arcadia coming out today? No. Arcadia came out last week, but Jerry was on vacation last week, so we didn't do the normal Arcadia live stream. So in a little under an hour, you folks are going to get to hang out with James and the authors of Arcadia and ask them good questions. Have I been doing well? Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. So I assume you folks know... Hang on a minute. Luke Zaz asks, is there any chance we'll get adventures using a funnel system? There is a chance. I don't know anything about it right now, but it's an interesting idea. I hope you folks are... have you guys heard about the Beast Heart? Or would this be the first time you're hearing about it? Because I'm super excited by that. Cheers from Iceland. Hello, Mr. Twisby. Longtime friend of the channel. Well, it's not... Tuyaks, it's happily... It's not James that finds the cover art. We have a whole team of people that work on art and cover art. James and Grace... Not James. Jason and Grace and Nick. And you ain't seen nothing yet. I am looking at the art for the Beast Heart, and it is the best art in anything we've done so far. You're going to get a new June video. The script for it is almost done. I have not, Francois. Emmanuel says, yeah, we know. Yes, we know about the Beast Heart. Okay, well, then I'll shut up. You started a live stream with your friends. That's awesome. Dungeons and Swedes. I have known many Swedes in my life. There's a lot of them in video games, and they're all super cool. Kyle Donovan says, I really like the name Beastart. That makes me happy. Nordic Nug says, any advice about starting a D&D adventuring league? No, I don't even know what that would be per se. You mean like I don't even know what a D&D Adventuring League would be. Matt, really liking Dusk campaign so far. Glad you like it. It's just this thing I threw together. In fact, there's a video, the video that is closest to being done. But I'm not sure that it's the next running the game video, because I'm sort of like, is this the best subject for a video when we haven't had a video in like 3 weeks? I'm always super sensitive to, like, if I haven't made a video in a couple of weeks, then the next video should be a good one. And the current video I'm working on is about oracles and prophecies and using dreams as visions in your game. And it talks about how Dusk is sort of like a reboot of an earlier campaign I ran that you guys didn't get to see. Even though we recorded it, the audio quality was terrible. With Matt O'Driscoll, we called it OD and D. And it fell apart like a flan in the cupboard. And that's largely because of me and my foolish attempts to try to create oracular visions for the characters. And then they misinterpret them and everything goes off the rails. Meh. So Twitch is the way to get more content from Matt. Well, I live stream on Twitch usually a couple times a week. And that's mostly, I do it on Twitch for a lot of reasons. I would say the number one reason is because Twitch's moderation tools are like 10 times better than YouTube's. And so whenever I do a stream like this on YouTube, our moderators are like, okay, because it's a lot harder for them to moderate chat here. And it's the moderators that make our community as awesome as they are, as awesome as it is. And our community is very awesome. So that's the number one reason for Twitch. But also Twitch automatically deletes the videos after 30 or 60 days or whatever, unless you go out of your way to save them. And I like that. I like the fact that we can have a conversation and it's ephemeral. It comes and it goes, and I'm not going to be hoist on my own petard years afterwards because of something I said in the heat of an impromptu moment. Ever gonna make a Mega Dungeon adventure book? I don't think MCDM has it in them. I think MCDM has it in us to make a big adventure, right? You know, like a big beefy. Hey, look at the floofy girl. Look at the floofy girl. You smell so nice. Oh my goodness. What? Okay, fine. But you're my kitty. But you have to put up with me. You have to. You're my kitty. I love you. Yeah. Hellos. Illuminati Sensei. Talking about how the streamer looks is like the number one way to get banned. Hang on a minute. And now I can't find it because it went away too fast. Ever thought about making any game mechanics for politics? I've done a couple of books just about that. For instance, we spent on Twitch, we spent an hour or 2 hours just talking about Dune. I can give you those of you who are curious of what I think about the Denis Villeneuve movie. It didn't really do anything for me. I didn't hate it. There are bits of it I liked. There are bits of it I thought were very clever. But I think that you just can't do the movie that I want to see in 5 hours, right? Two and a half hour installments. I think that there's about 45 minutes missing from that movie because you can't just spend the first half of your movie saying, we're going to Arrakis, we're going to Arrakis, we're going to Arrakis, and then land on Dune. And like within a day of landing there, it's like the Harkonnens are attacking, the Harkonnens are attacking, the Harkonnens are attacking. It's like, wait, hang on. We need some time with House Atreides just on Arrakis, just running the joint. We need some time there. Otherwise, so that's the thing I think that stopped me from enjoying the film. Because there wasn't enough. We didn't spend enough time with the characters and just soaking in that world. Every scene is moving the plot forward, and it's like. So I'm glad that other people like it. It's doing modestly well. Fantasy Grounds is in development. In fact, I have downloaded and used the Illrigger plugin module for Fantasy Grounds, and it's cool. The only thing I didn't know was that, like, when you make an Illrigger in Fantasy Grounds, spoilers, when you make an Illrigger in Fantasy Grounds, like saying I'm a third level Illrigger, it doesn't get you everything you need. Like it'll take your it'll populate your character sheet with your class abilities, but you won't see them in your actions tab. And but what you have to do is you grab like Baleful Interdict from your list of abilities, grab it and drag it onto your action tab, and it'll go bloop, and it'll populate it with, oh, I want to put a seal on somebody, I want to consume the seal, here's the healing I get for it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool, very impressive. Yeah, people like that banquet scene from the novel, but I don't think you could just add the banquet scene. But I think that stands in for the stuff they should have added. When was the last time I made a battle map for D&D? I don't really make battle maps in that sense. I'm not an artist. You know, if I need to draw something in the middle of the game, I'll just draw it on, you know, that's what I use gaming paper for. Just dry erase board with a grid on it and draw something. But otherwise, one of the things I like about the Dusk campaign is the Dusk campaign has been a lot of fun to prep and a lot of fun to run in a way that other D&D games haven't been, because I'm using Fantasy Grounds, and I changed the way I think about it. That's the reason I bring it up, because I don't think it would be interesting otherwise. What I would do is I went and found a whole bunch of cartographers, map makers, people that make virtual tabletop D&D maps. There's a bunch of them on Patreon, and some of them are really, they make a beautiful, beautiful maps. And you subscribe to their Patreon for not a lot of money, and you get access to all of them. And what I would do is I would just sit there and I would say, show me all the forest maps you got. All the maps that happen in a forest. And there's quite a lot. You know, there's, in some cases, there are dozens of them across these different. And I would go, that's a really awesome map. I'm going to make an encounter for that. Ooh, that's a cool map. I'm going to make an encounter for that. So in other words, Dusk is the first game I've ever run where I started with the maps. And I was like, I'm just going to figure out what kind of adventure these maps are describing, right? So this is another kind of oracular vision, like rolling dice to generate stats. I'm going to consult the bones. I was looking at these different cool maps, and I was like, that's awesome. I'll put that in my game, put that in my game. And it made it a lot easier to run, because what I'm used to with virtual tabletops, specifically Fantasy Grounds, although this would be true of any VTT I used, is I write and design an adventure. You know, we're talking about a couple of encounters. That's all. We're just talking about the next session. I'm just trying to get through the next session, and I outline what's going to happen. I build some encounters, and then I go online and start looking for maps. And you're never really satisfied. You're like, this is close, but this isn't exactly what I want. And that was always very frustrating. So flipping the script, turning it upside down, and saying, no, I'm just going to start with maps, made it really easy and fun. Oh, hey, everybody, Mark's there. Everybody be cool, Mark's there. Hey, Mark. And yeah, how do you make your characters feel like a team? Well, I mean, Alex, I think one of the things you do is you put the book in front of them and you say, which organization are you guys? And then when they see the organizations, they'll be like, ooh, what are these? How can we? But generally, I think the players start feeling like a team when you challenge them from without, right? When a whole bunch of orcs try to kill them. And they have to work together. Now they feel like a team. But otherwise, I mean, you know, I'm used to running D&D where you run what we used to call modules, because they were modular. You could do them in any order, right? These days, Wizards of the Coast presents D&D as a game that is played with adventures that last many levels. The entire, a single hardcover book is basically a campaign. Right, and it'll take you across 10 levels. Well, when you run modules in 32 pages, and this is an adventure that we're going to spend 3 or 4 weeks in, and then finish, there's an ending. We saved the town. That kind of thing is what makes the players feel like we're a team, we're heroes, you know. And then you could have some NPC say, "Who are you guys?" Right, and give them a narrative prompt to come up with a name for their crew or whatever. That's always fun. But yeah, I think that one of the things with these big hardcover adventures is you don't get, sometimes you're like on a chapter by chapter basis, but you don't get that sense of, we beat the bad guy, we won, we saved the town. That's it. We get some experience and we probably level up. It's a complete experience, self-contained, and now we can go on to some other adventure. That will make the heroes, that'll make the players feel like a team. It's usually them saving somebody, coming together, working together. Look, there we go. Thank you. Nase, I keep forgetting how to pronounce her name. That's awesome, Marco. Hopefully, check out Kingdoms and Warfare because there's a whole organization just for bards, sort of. Yeah, Lost Mines of Flapdoodle, which is long. It takes like 6 months to play that thing. It's crazy. Cody, I'm glad they've been useful to you. I recall you mentioned a video on Castle Amber. That's funny. Yeah, in fact, I've got it. I've got it open. I've got the script open right here. And I've been checking out the adventure. So yeah, I definitely think we're going to get a video on Cat. I like the idea of doing a series of like deep dives into some of the more interesting and obscure content in early D&D. I don't like talking about modern produced products because we make modern D&D 5e products, and so talking about other people's products seems like not the done thing, like a conflict of interest. But I also have a lot of experience with old school 70s and 80s D&D, and there's some crazy shit in there. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to spend time. And I think generally speaking, as for the YouTube audience, for you folks, I think generally speaking, as long as we're making videos about things that are adjacent to the hobby, right, then people will be happy. It doesn't always have to be running the game. How's production on Kingdoms of Warfare going? That's a good question. That's an Anna question, and she's on vacation right now. But today's her last day of vacation. So I think you'll probably get a Kickstarter update shortly after she gets back. No promises. It's going to be, we tend to avoid, I don't like making Kickstarter updates just for the sake of making updates. I prefer to make sure that when we publish an update, it's because we have learned something has changed. So no news in that case is good news. But I think everything is happening. I'll tell you that I've looked at we've got finished versions of the DM screen, the Kingdoms and Warfare DM screen. It's awesome. It is one of the most impressive things we made, and probably the thing that has caused, so far of all the stuff MCDM has done, that DM screen made me the most emotional. It's not a general purpose D&D screen. It's got one or two panels that are just the D&D panels, and then the other panels are Kingdoms and Warfare stuff. So seeing this, I'm like, we got to make a regular everyday DM screen because this is amazing. I love this. So things are being printed. I'm proud of my old company for the success of Back for Blood. I saw Tom and another level designer last night from Mimnos. Every time I see him, I tell him how happy I am and proud I am for Back for Blood. I played in the alpha and I was like, this is gonna be a hit. I think this is gonna be a hit, and I was happy that I was right. I have not, Minos. I'm not a huge fan of watching people play D&D. I find it kind of boring. Christian Rivera says, what kind of details would a generic MCDM screen have? It's the stuff that a good DM screen should have. And there's a bunch of it on the Kingdoms and Warfare screen, but it's only on like these two panels. So I think there's a better general purpose one. With, the first DM screen that came out, I thought was for 5th edition, was pretty useless. And kind of like, they made a DM screen that showed people how they wished the game would be played. Look, it's all about creating NPCs and giving them personality. It's like, I need to know how far light sheds if you have a torch. So that's the kind of stuff I need on my DM screen. And then they came out with another one, a second 5e DM screen that did have all that stuff on it. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I did see the Green Knight. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. What do I think it would be like to have Tolkien as a DM? That's a good question. I don't know. Thoughts on the Dune movie? They didn't really do anything for me. What codex should I put in the Temple of Primeval Mayhem? That's a good question. I don't know. Is there a codex of chaos? That would be cool. Hang on a minute. Let me make a note. Did I ever do a third Dune video? No, I've got the script for it almost done, so you'll see it soon. What are my thoughts on RPGs that have classes versus RPGs that are classless? I don't really have an opinion, although as a designer, I prefer class-based systems. And I think that for players, class-based systems are a lot more straightforward, especially new players. Pick an ancestry. It's like, and they've probably, if you're coming to D&D, even for the first time ever, you've probably played some online RPG. You probably played WoW or something like that at least once in your life, and so you understand the principle of you pick a ancestry and a class, and that's your character. It's really straightforward. And one of the things that bugs me about designing for 5th edition is, like, I honestly, like, when we came out with the Illrigger, people had really interesting reactions to it. And one of the reactions that was moderately popular was, this is better. Like, this class is a lot more fun. Like, this is how martial classes in 5th edition should be. It is fun to play, right? I don't understand how the spellcasting classes have all the fun and the martial classes are all boring. Right. Well, I think one of the reasons the martial classes are boring is because of the rules for multi-classing. Right. You can make a really cool class that does awesome shit if you don't have to worry about people only dipping into it for 1 or 2 levels to get some crazy useful class ability out of, and then just continuing on with their barbarian or bard build or whatever. And there's only been one edition of the game where I thought multi-classing was really well designed, and it's not 5th edition, by the way. And just in general, I view multi-classing as, all right, so not everybody likes a class-based system, so let's have this like little kludge over here, this little outlet for people that want everything to be more a la carte. And I'm like, well, don't do that though. That's either make it a class-based system or make it ability-based or skill-based a la carte. But having this kind of hybrid where you can it's class-based, but you can multi-class, I don't think it improves the game. So, Alex, there's actually a clip about that on our Twitch channel. I don't know how we get there from here. But if you would ask that question live during a Twitch chat, you'd get a little response from the moderator with a link. Do I think backgrounds should be improved for the next edition of D&D? I think they could be improved. I don't think they have to be. I'm not sure what's wrong with them or why people would imagine that they... How do I reconcile players wanting an expansive backstory with starting at level 1? It's a good question. I don't normally have... I have had players who like went crazy overboard with their first level characters. Not even really their background. It's usually all the quirks they have, and first time players can get overexcited. But I think generally, are we getting dusk today? Yeah, probably actually around 3 o'clock after the live stream. But I know I would probably just remind that player. Remember, a couple of hours ago, you were a peasant, right? Or whatever your background was. But there's nothing about being first level. There's nothing about being a first level character that says you can't have an expansive backstory, right? Remember that you were a sage or a sailor or any number of things in your background. You have tons of different choices when you're creating a background. And you could have been, one of those. You could have been a sailor for 20 years before you decided to say, screw this, I'm going to become a barbarian. Do I have some kind of wish list for 5.5? Nope. Well, no. Do I think spells could be improved from 5e? So, I mean, this is a good question. People, they're working on an update for 5th edition. People are calling it 5.5. They haven't called it that as far as I know. They might call it 5e revised, or they might call it 6th edition. Who knows? And you start imagining, if you haven't been through this cycle, if you haven't thought about it, you start imagining all the ways in which you would change Dungeons and Dragons. Gosh, does there have to? These stats are weird. Wouldn't it be better if one of the stats explicitly was willpower? Because aren't we all often trying to? Why do we call it charisma? Maybe we should just call charisma willpower. Wouldn't that be improvement? That's not going to happen, folks. We're not. You can imagine a spell system that was, more interesting, less systematized, more random and chaotic, because maybe that's how magic should be. You can imagine a magic system that's more balanced, or that's more, but they're not going to do that. Because they spent a lot of money to buy Dungeons and Dragons. It is a brand they own. Their number one goal is always going to be make a game that is recognizably Dungeons and Dragons. So you can imagine ways in which it's going to change, and ways you would change 5th edition. but it's almost guaranteed going to be a much more conservative revision than what you have in your head. Ryan Moreno says, I'm loving Dust, but can we get some more running the game vids? Ryan, don't you feel like I feel like at this point with running the game, if there's an issue and I haven't covered it, I don't know what there is to say. I feel like really all you need are those first 5 videos, don't you think? So as long as I'm running D&D, I think we'll see more running the game videos, but it's not like we're almost at episode number 100. And at this point, I feel like I have definitely said everything you need to say to get somebody behind the screen. Do you disagree? Laventros. Yeah, they if you want D&D except better design. That was 4th edition. Everybody hated it. Except me. I loved it. Well, I definitely feel the same way, James Warner. Do I think alignment should be moved? One of the videos, there's an upcoming video called I Love Alignment. And it's funny because I remember being a teenager in the 80s and my friends and I arguing about alignment. It was we got over that, by the way. We outgrew arguing about it and we embraced it. And it's funny to me. I wish I could go back to that 17-year-old kid and say, by the way, you're going to be arguing about this for the rest of your life. And see what that 17-year-old would have said. Part of it would have been like, whoa, wait, what? But yeah, I love alignment. I think alignment's fantastic. It seems very unlikely to me that they would ever remove it. What we're going to see is it does this, right? It's like, oh, I think it was 2nd edition where the Monster Manual said alignment, it would say usually chaotic, right? And then they're like, oh, let's not do that. And they went, oh, let's go ahead. Now the new stat blocks for monsters are going back to that. A lot of the changes I'm seeing for 5th edition are just them rolling back to stuff they'd already solved. Problems they had already solved. And that's, for me, who has watched every edition of the game come out, it's really weird to see them kind of like unlearning lessons. That's strange. That's weird. So no, I do not think alignment should be removed. I love alignment. I think it's one of the coolest things in D&D. Excuse me. My players always rely on NPCs. They're scared to make their own decisions. Well, then you definitely don't have the NPCs make them. We've talked about this in running the game videos. I've talked about, like, it's absolutely, give your players NPCs as buddies. We have rules in Strongholds and Followers are actually pretty popular for retainers, a really kind of a reduced instruction set character for the player to have as a buddy. But you cannot have those NPCs solve the problems. I mean, you can every once in a while, and it'll if you do it rarely enough, it'll work, and the players will like it. But generally speaking, the players need to learn that they cannot rely on their NPCs to solve problems. It's up to them. And one of the things you can do, I mean, if you really want to break the back of the players are risk averse. They don't like making decisions because decisions can be wrong. You can make the wrong decision, and players don't like that. They want to, and so they're going to do everything they can to avoid making any decision, typically. And so what you do if you have players who are over-reliant on NPCs is you have that NPC suggest something that is self-evidently insane. And then the players will be like, we can't listen to this person. I love your Dune content. Zabarino. Why wasn't there an ad in the last Arcadia issue? Ads were something that we tried for an issue, and it's up to James whether we continue doing it. But we did not. It was not like a new initiative that was going to last forever. We just wanted to see what would happen. Let's try ads, and then let's see how people react to it. So this is the let's see how people react to it stage. I do not feel, says Philip, John Ryan. I do not feel alignment. John Ryan Phillips says they don't feel alignment is necessarily a useful tool for player characters. I feel motivations is a much more interesting tool for that. Well, that's because you're imagining that the goal is to come up with a system for defining motivations. I'm not 100% sure that's what alignment is for. One of my players is really passive. This is a great question, Berserker Brian. Thank you for the $5, by the way. One of my players, I believe people in chat could answer this for you, for instance. One of my players is really passive and only participates in combat. Is it wrong of me to force them into situations to participate? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say it is wrong of you, probably. That's harsh. It sounds harsh. But like, you know, if you're the DM, it's reasonable for you as the dungeon master to go, this player seems like they're in a rut or whatever. Let me see if I can get them out of their shell. Let me see if I can get them to role play a little bit more. Let me see if I can prompt them to speak in character sometimes, or kind of take the lead in planning or something. And if you try that and it doesn't work, well, all right, fine. You gave it a shot. That's how they enjoy playing the game. Let them enjoy playing the game. Why are you trying to interfere with your players' fun? Just let them have fun. But it is reasonable, I think, if you have players that are, you know, that you think what they're getting out of the game is not well aligned with your expectations, to try to broaden their horizons and try to get them to try to stimulate them into doing other things at the table. But if you try that and it doesn't work, well, you gave it a shot. There you go. Maybe that's just how they like to play. And players, their styles definitely can change over time, especially brand new players. You know, brand new players they have all sorts of crazy ideas about what the game's about. And when they start playing, they're going to tend to play the same character over and over again. But eventually they'll just get bored of that and they'll start playing other characters. This assumes they adopt the Dungeons and Dragons as a hobby, which not everybody does. But players will change their style over time. But there's nothing you can do really to force that to happen, nor should you, right? Just play, and I have no problem with players that they're only, as long as they're happy. And usually it's, you know, I've called them audience members. That's my contribution to the types of players. Every game I've run, there have been players who are perfectly content to just sit there and watch all this cool shit happen until the world building and lore and plot and subplots and stories and characters and NPCs. They're like, this is awesome. I love this. Right. But they don't jump in. They're not interested in that. But they are happy to roll dice and kill stuff when you call for initiative. Nothing wrong with that. Have I played Disco Elysium? Yes. I didn't like it. And I was surprised anybody thought I would. What do I think about DMs changing the alignment axis to better suit a campaign's tone, like forthright and secretive in a political campaign? I think that's not alignment. Those are just personality traits. There's nothing wrong with that. Jax Frost, I don't enjoy watching people play D&D. I find it really kind of like, oh, so no. John Bright for some reason likes my Casio watch. So do I. Do I have thoughts on Star Citizen 3.15 and semi-permadeath? I'm interested to see where they go with it. I'm interested to give it a shot. Marcus Hardy says, my videos change the way they look at alignment as a tool. Cool. For me, alignment represents cosmic forces, right? Among other things, alignment represents these cosmic forces that are battling over the mundane world. And so when people ask me questions like, should you replace alignment with, I'm like, you can replace it with whatever you want, but then it's not that thing that I like. Like, as somebody who grew up reading the Eternal Champion books, for me, law and chaos is a big deal. And it informs a lot of the stuff I do in my game. Arcadia Talk starts in about half an hour. Is there another series of books or a singular book I would like to see made into a TTRPG, hardly paranormal? I don't, to me, making a game is a creative process. It's not a business decision. I don't cast about thinking what brands are out there that you could buy. So for me, making a tabletop RPG, if we made our own game, among other things, if there was an MCDM RPG, we would probably use Orden as the world for it, although not necessarily, and that would be a hugely creative endeavor. So why would, if you're going to make an RPG, why would you waste your time on someone else's IP? I've done that. I worked on 2 different official versions of the Star Trek RPG, the second Lord of the Rings RPG, and Dune. I did the Dune role-playing game. I've worked on Blade Runner game. I've done tons of stuff like that. I was really lucky to get to work on all these products, but I don't have any desire to adapt other people's brands or stories anymore. Will we see Arcadia content in Fantasy Grounds? We don't have a plan for that. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to adapt content, print content into a VTT, and we produce too much content in Arcadia. What is the state of MCDM? We're doing okay. The like different colors of magic for different alignments. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing particularly sacred about law, chaos, neutral, good, and evil. It's just I like it. The Forever DM, the most unknown. Thank you for the $10. I don't. That term Forever DM seems to have a pejorative association with it, right? The idea that I'm stuck being the dungeon master, and so for me, that's not how I describe myself. I just love being a DM. I love playing. My friend Mark, who I've been playing D&D with since 1980 something, was in a Twitch chat recently, and he said Matt is a lot more fun as a player than a dungeon master, which I thought was interesting. So for me, I love running D&D. Running D&D is more of a hobby of mine than playing D&D is. So I don't think of myself in those terms. But Azrael the Fifth says, would I be averse to fans sending their own homemade games for playtesting? Why would we play somebody else's games? We can play our own games. Shane Parker says that they think a cadence of Arcadia content in Fantasy Grounds is certainly feasible. You do? Really? And how much money are you going to give us to hire employees to manage that? Because unless it's a couple $100,000, I disagree. Was it deleted? Yeah, because I don't think it really has anything to do with running the game. I think if I'm going to talk about those, any kind of lessons learned there, I think it's better to do it in a generic context without tying it to someone else's specific game. Martial Law. Great comic, Kevin O'Neill. You are an amazing DM. Well, I think I'm a little bit better than average, I would say. I don't think there's anything I do as a dungeon master that you can't do. Yeah, Mark, I'm the same way. Like, for me, I mean, usually playing in a game is one of the things that motivates me to run. Would we ever make minis based on Arcadia articles, Benjamin? Well, we wouldn't do it just to do it. We would have to think that there was some kind of broader appeal. Although that being said, like, you know, if 20% of Arcadia backers bought a mini, then I think that would make it worthwhile. So maybe. Have I been a player lately? Well, I got to play the King of the Mods, Lord Duroc, is running a D&D game. We've only played one session, and I am playing a talent in that. The first test of James's design for MCDM's psionic class. That was pretty cool. The running the talent was pretty cool. Nothing really has happened. We just fought some ogres. That's been it so far. I don't know when we'll play again. And I got to play. James ran a game testing the what do you call it? Testing the Beastmaster, which now is called the Beast Heart, and that was super cool. But that was just one session. So I played in a lot of like one session things. It hasn't turned into anything yet. Do I ever stream NetHack anymore? No, I mean every once in a while people will be like, NetHack, NetHack, NetHack. And I'll be like, well, you know, I like that game. I've been playing NetHack since like 1989. And so I'll fire it up, but it's never the same. Like that experience we had playing NetHack on Twitch, the time we ascended, right? We started playing, I think it was around the beginning of October, and it was somewhere around Halloween that we finally ascended. And there were hundreds of people watching in chat, and we did it, and it was amazing. I think those videos are all still up on Twitch. That was unbelievable. And so for me, it's not fun to, that was a moment in time, like the Pink Floyd streams. That was a moment in time. We did it. It was super awesome. And every time I've gone back to it, I've been like, Have I run for the chain at all recently? No, the chain is on hiatus. Although, like the only thing really that's stopping the chain from coming back right now, FYI, is Dusk. I've got a point in the future in the campaign, in my 4th edition campaign, that is a good stopping point. I think it's only about 3 sessions away. And at that point, we go back to the chain. And I've been working on the chain content. So I did not think that it would take this long to get to that point in Dusk. Because when we first started Dusk, we were playing like 3 times a week back in April. It was awesome. And I thought we'd go and we'd get to where we are now in just like a month or 2. But then a lot of the players are working on Back for Blood. And so as that almost came out and then it's out now and they need to support it, people were around less and people's schedules started to get complex. And it seems like we're kind of getting back into the swing of it. But like I said, we've got 2 or 3 sessions, I think, before Dusk wraps up. Then it should be back to the chain. Adventure. I don't know what Dropout is, and I don't know what Adventuring Academy is. I apologize. Sir Zesty. Sir Zesty! Tic Tac, thank you for the 20 Russian R string. I guess I'm probably the only person these days who sees that symbol and thinks it means string. Man, it looks like there's a bunch of electronics gear behind me. No, it's my retro tech. This is my, this is just a stack. This is how I listen to mini discs or audio tapes or CDs while I'm working if I need to. Because these are audio formats that I grew up with and spent a lot of time with. And I'm happy to live in a future of streaming and FLAC and high-res HD tracks and stuff like that. But I also like every once in a while revisiting my youth. And then this is, similarly, this is the computer, my computer, my first real computer. And every once in a while I want to do some retro tech nonsense. The Brazilian Real. That's cool. Mini discs. Yeah, I love new Dune review when. I don't know if I'll do a review of the movie. I might. We have the third Dune video is about 80% done, the script. And then we're going to I might do a Dune. I'll probably have to watch the movie a couple times. I don't really have anything to say about the movie, though. I don't like talking about movies if I don't have something to say, if I don't have a point, right? If I haven't had some kind of observation about it. Lots of movies I watch and I like or I don't like, and I don't think about them. And I don't really have anything to say about Dune in that regard. But that's not the same. But, you know, people... It would, if I make a video saying here's what I thought about Dune, then people will stop asking me in chat, and I don't mind talking about it. I like talking about Dune, but I feel bad repeating the same stories for people who've already heard it. So FYI, BT Dubs, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to wave bye-bye and float off into the ether with my cats. I have a cat right here you cannot see. Hello. What if I want to pick you up, though? What if I wanted to? Hello. Look at the big floof. Oh, I love you so much. My favorite kitty. Hello. Hi. Hey, everybody. And you folks will be hanging out with James and the authors of Arcadia 8? Arcadia 9? Which one just came out? That's a good kitty right there. Politics video on Dune, like the Black Panther one. Well, actually, the Sodakar video has a lot of the politics in it. Because the Sodakar video explains, for instance, why House Atreides and House Harkonnen have been feuding for literally thousands of years, by the way. Dalton asks, hey, man, is there a good way to train yourself to appreciate film? I.e., like the golden ear type training for music? Well, golden ear, yeah, there is. And it's this. Go see a lot of movies with people that like movies and then talk about it afterwards, because it is the talking about it that gets your brain to start thinking. That's how you think about things, is by talking about it. So That's the secret, is just go see a lot of movies and then see it with people that also like movies. And then the discussions that you have afterwards, you will build your own vocabulary of film criticism. Tiny Cat does not have heterochromia as far as I know, although it may have seemed that way just from the lighting. Am I familiar with the original Dune script by Alejandro Jodorowsky? Yeah, that would have been fucking crazy. I would have liked to have seen it. There's a great, you probably know this, but people in chat might not. There's a great documentary about Alejandro Jodorowsky, who's a famous Chilean filmmaker. He's a surrealist, and he's a surrealist with a capital S, not the kind of watered down surrealism of David Lynch. Like Jodorowsky's stuff is crazy, and he was so hot for a little while in the 70s, off the back of it was El Topo and then Holy Mountain. He was so hot that for a little while it seemed like he could do anything, and he tried to adapt Dune, and it failed. But it's really interesting. And so yeah, it's called Jodorowsky's Dune. And the thing about Jodorowsky's Dune, it's like, it's important. People should know about this movie because it never happened. However, the team of artists that he pulled together to make this movie, they didn't make a movie, but they all went on. First of all, they all worked on Alien together, right? So if you've seen Alien, you've seen the work of the artists that were working on Jodorowsky's 70s version of Dune. But they all went on to define, all of them in one sense or another, worked on all of the science fiction and fantasy movies all through the 80s and even up until the early 90s. And they defined what science fiction worlds looked like. So, and it was Jodorowsky that brought them all together for the first time and introduced them to each other. So it's super interesting. I very strongly recommend that. I'm glad you liked the Harley Paranormal. Thank you for the $5. They were going to cast Salvador Dali. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of they were gonna, but didn't happen. So who knows of the list of people that said yes to Jodorowsky, how many actually would have, if they had ever gotten the funding, which, you know. Gus, thank you very much. Yeah, the Ill Rigger is now on Roll20, so those of you who use that VTT, and I believe it's coming to Fantasy Grounds soon. I've got a chance to use it. Yeah, I have a copy of the Inkle over here somewhere. Yeah, I have the Inkle and I have Before the Inkle, and I was not able to get into it. I may give it another shot, but it's awfully weird. Will we see another Let's Build a Dungeon video? There's definitely one of the live streams I've taken down because I don't think it was very good, and I don't think live streams are good. I don't think live streams have good signal to noise ratio when it comes to running the game videos. So one of the things I've done is gone and I've pulled all the live streams from the running the game thing. Is I want to redo them as regular scripted videos, and I definitely think that probably the biggest, most impactful running the game video that I have yet to make, and it may turn into a small series, is Let's Make an Adventure Together. Because I think that's the only thing that we haven't really done. We've done everything else. Maxime Tremblay, I don't really understand the question. Do I consider it a good idea to run a monster type campaign? You mean one where players play monsters? In my experience, a lot of players play monsters regardless of what skin they're wearing. What are my thoughts on more monster races? Well, I mean, if you've seen Arcadia, there's lots of crazy monstrous races in there. A lot of really cool ones. What's my opinion on the Wheel of Time series? You don't want to know. Sofa King says, I really want the Ill Rigger on D&D Beyond. You may not have it. D&D Beyond, their deal with Wizards of the Coast does not allow them to do third-party content. So that, unfortunately, is a fantasy. The best you can do is Roll20 and soon Fantasy Grounds. Thoughts on the Paizo unionization efforts? I am obviously pro-union. I'm always going to side with labor. Do I feel like my plan for where the chain is going has changed at all during the time gap? Yes. Do I gel my beard? No. Do I feel like the plan for where the chain is going has changed at all? Yes, Garrett. In fact, one of the videos you're going to get soonish is a video on lessons I have learned running the Chain of Acheron and running Dusk. Because there's a lot of them. And I don't mean like running the game lessons. I mean like more like plotting. And, you know, I definitely have thought a lot about, because when I started the Chain of Acheron, you may be surprised, but you should not be. I had no idea who Ajax was or what it was going to be like to fight the dude. I mean, I had a mini for him, right? I didn't know what his stats were, or I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to conquer the world. I knew why. I know, like, you know, but I didn't really have any kind of understanding. How is this campaign going to end? What is it going to mean? This is what I did not know. What is it going to mean to be his enemy? And how do you fight him? Like, how do you defeat him? I don't mean how do you fight him as in roll initiative. I mean, how do you stop him? How do you thwart his plan? How are the Chain of Acheron going to go from recouping in capital and rebuilding their army, which is going to get a lot easier soon? How do you go from that to... And I've started to realize, well, you're not going to be able to do it. An army is necessary but not sufficient, right? So the characters are going to have to become superheroes in one sense or another. If that makes sense. So that's one of the things I've been thinking about. Have I backed any good Kickstarters recently? I don't think so. I think there's a new, first of all, there's a new Monty Cook Games Humble Bundle that has a ton of Numenera stuff in it. Somebody might be able to link in chat. That's not a Kickstarter, but it's a really good deal. And there's a Mothership Kickstarter that I'm pretty interested in. I will probably back. Mothership is a game I'm super interested in. What about it, Diego? Have we been using the warfare rules in the chain? Not yet. Not yet, Noah. We haven't had an opportunity, really. I do think that the end of the first book of the chain, I guess, you know, I'm not counting like the Book of Judge being a second book, but the end of part 1 of the chain is going to involve a battle. And it's probably going to be against 12 dragons. Facehawk says, you look super tired. Facehawk, I was thinking about talking about how awful you look, but I am far too polite to say something that rude. Any plans from the 2001 video? Also, you're wrong. I look fucking amazing. What are you talking about? Any plans for a new 2001 video? Yes. How are the chain players doing? Pretty good. I think the players are doing pretty good. Phil seems to be doing great. Phil's company just released literally the company he owns just released a new game called Back 4 Blood, and it is doing incredibly well. It was #1 on Steam for weeks, and it now is only down to like #2, which is makes me deeply, deeply happy since I used to work there, and I still talk to those guys all the time. So Phil is now, I see him playing his game with streamers all the time. It's super exciting. Will Tom be using the new Beast Heart rules? Yeah, he absolutely will be. Good question. Have I ever played Traveler? Yes. In fact, I think Traveler is probably going to be the subject of the next What's on the Shelf short, because I want to show people original Traveler and how you made a character, because that I actually have a lot of affection for, and not just affection, not just nostalgic affection, but actually respect for the adventure, the career path idea of building a character, right? Not choose a class and you get a bunch of abilities, but how do you spend the next 6 months of your character's background life? Oh, I go to college. Okay, well, roll to see what happens while you're in college. Oh, I graduate with a degree and I get this, that, and the other thing. What are you going to do? Are you going to become an adventurer now? No. I'm going to press my luck. I'm going to sign up for the military. Okay, how many tours of duty do you want to do? Every time you complete a tour of duty, you get more skills, you get more contacts, but you got to roll, because there's a chance if you sign up for military duty, you're going to die. You will be DED dead. And the idea of your character dying in character creation is so fucking crazy to me. But I actually think it's really cool. It makes making a character a mini game. right? Which it normally is not. Normally making a character is incredibly tedious. But in Traveler, the life path system where you're deciding, does my character continue growing and getting older and getting more experience, or do I stop and become an adventurer? And so you end up with parties that have young characters in it and old characters in it and all sorts of cool, like, you know, this grizzled old character who used to be the captain of a starship and now has a little tiny yacht that they use. Really cool. Super, super cool. Did I see the new Dune yet? Yes. I didn't love it. What do I think about solo tabletop RPGs? I don't really know anything about them, but I get more and more curious about them over time. I think Mark Holmes has run one a couple of times. Have you ever played any Palladium games? I played the Robotech RPG, which uses the Rift's system. Do I think there's a generic enough system framework to adapt for 5e use by the average DM? I'm not sure what you mean, Arcanite. You mean like, could you turn 5th edition into a generic RPG? Yeah, I mean, sure. It's not kind of... I mean, there's nothing special about rolling a d20 and higher is better, right? That's generic. Excuse me. All right, folks, thanks for hanging out. You folks asked a bunch of really good questions, I thought. Please check out the Illrigger on Roll20. If you use Roll20, it's $15, which I know is a lot of money, but especially for a class. We're still learning about price points, so the future is uncertain. I realize $15 is a lot of money for the Illrigger, but we put a lot of work into that, and we're still putting work into it, by the way. And I think you might get a kick out of it. It is a lot of fun to play. I am going to log off right now, but stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because in literally just a couple of minutes, you're going to get to hang out with James Intricasso, who's the lead designer for MCDM, and don't ask him about the Beast Heart, because he's going to want to talk about it. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about Arcadia. We're here to talk about Arcadia, and you get to hang out with the Arcadia authors. You should ask them about the content on Arcadia number 9, I think it was, that just came out. Yeah, Arcadia number 9, which has some incredibly fun seeming rules. I haven't used them yet, but they look cool as fuck. That's right, I said that. For starting at 0 level. And starting running, it's almost like troop style, old Ars Magica style troop style play, where you control a bunch of 0 level characters, and the only question is, which one of these characters is going to be the one that survives this crazy adventure? I think that's going to be a blast. So I'm going to log off right now. Please don't go anywhere. Please be nice to James and tell him I said hey, and ask good questions. And if you don't know what questions to ask, that means you probably need to go to our store and pick up Arcadia number 9, because then you'll have awesome questions. And if you would like more hangout time with Uncle Matt, I encourage you to follow us on Twitch. I know people find Twitch annoying, but Twitch's moderation tools are way, way better than YouTube's. And that's how you get good chat and good moderation and good community, I think, is you need good moderation tools and good moderators. And we have amazing moderators. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop the stream now, and it'll start again in just a few moments. Until next time. Be seeing you.